The polls I see when they ask Republicans who are going to vote for, some 90+% that they're supporting me. So that's more Republicans supporting me than Democrats supporting the president. So if there's a rift in the party, I think it's his. I saw in West Virginia, for instance, an inmate got almost 40% of the votes against President Obama for the convention. So I think they got more problems on that side of the aisle than we do on ours.
Mitt Romney on radio in Colorado. He's talking about the West Virginia Democratic primary, where, in fact, Keith Judd, who is an inmate in federal prison in Texas, received more than 42% of the vote in that primary. Embarrassing for the Obama campaign. He won 42%. He's serving 17.5 years for extortion. But it shows you the protest vote in West Virginia. And we talked a little bit about North Carolina. We're back with the panel. David, it goes to perhaps a vulnerability in some of these states that is underneath, but you see it when these votes come up.
Well, I think it shows that the president doesn't walk on water the way he did 4 years ago. You don't have a completely energized party with the independents piling on who would do anything to vote out any remnant of republicanism or the Bush administration. It's a different ballgame. We saw 200,000 Democrats, I believe, in North Carolina voted no preference. We've seen other votes like this. I wouldn't make too much of it, because in most of the states where we've seen this, there are states where Obama, he wouldn't win if he was the only candidate in the general election. But in a state like North Carolina that he wants to win again, the convention's in Charlotte, a couple of points one way or the other, and you've got a much different election, and it shows he has some work to do. And I think that's one of the reasons we've seen, even though obviously as the president unopposed in a primary, throughout the past few months he's been making some key overtures to his base, whether it was the environmentalists on the Keystone XL pipeline, or going after Republicans on tax increases in a particular way. I think it showed that he was trying to say, look, I need you, I want you, please work hard and turn out for me.
Not to focus too much on West Virginia, because as David mentioned, it's not a state that likely is going to go Democratic, but you had Democratic Senator Joe Manchin asked about this today, said that was something, wasn't it? And he went to point out that it's all about energy, saying that West Virginia is a major coal producer, and some in this state have accused the Obama White House of waging a war on coal.
Well, and Joe Manchin, when he was running, was pretty dismissive of the president.
And in fact, he's recently said he doesn't know if he's going to vote for President Obama.
That's right. And I was just going to say that. So what you have here is a situation where he's somewhat distanced himself. But, I mean, it's just, I don't think that this is much more than people who just said, anybody but those who are on the ballot. And I think that there's that sentiment out there in the American mind right now. People are just fed up with Washington. And this was a protest vote.
But how does this gay marriage dust up, if you will, and whatever the president said today, play for those folks in some of those states that Democrats feel like they perhaps were going after?
Well, if I could just make a response to Juan on the West Virginia situation, that was not a protest vote. That was a choice between an extortionist on the one hand who's in prison and an administration that is expropriating the coal industry, which is what the state lives on. You have to choose between an extortionist who's in prison and an administration that has control of the EPA and thus of you, and has issued a regulation a month ago that will kill coal in America. I think it's a protest with substance, and I don't think it's restricted to that one state. It's going to spread all across Appalachia. On the gay marriage issue, I'm not sure it's going to have a direct effect, because I do think in this election, which is so heavily economic and jobs, it'll be low on the list, and probably even low on the list of the social issues.
Quickly, a lot of response to that soundbite from ABC, the president talking about his decision-making when he said, when I think about those soldiers or airmen or Marines or sailors who are out there fighting on my behalf. Just in the past few minutes, received a lot of emails and tweets about it. David, is that a problem, the phraseology there?
It's one of timing. If the president ends up in real trouble in the fall, this is the kind of thing that could be played over and over, and people could say, you know what, yeah, enough already. But if the president's surging, if the economy is recovering, they're going to be like, whatever.
It excites the Republican base. I think it gives them something to talk about for the next few hours, but I don't think it has any staying power whatsoever. He's the commander-in-chief. He should have some sense of personal connection if he's sending my son out to get killed.
Can you imagine Dwight Eisenhower issuing a statement on D-Day congratulating his troops on seizing Omaha Beach on his behalf, it's inconceivable. It would be inconceivable to him, and the fact that it isn't to Obama, who actually said it, I think is extremely revealing.
That is it for the panel, but stay tuned for new details from a long-lost letter.